Hey folks, this is Cole and this is my corner. It buries enormous reservoir of information and different teachings, awesome books, unknown books, and endless supply and a surprise of what else is available. So I'm very grateful to Barry for letting me do my thing. We're continuing with the podcast number 8 of A Course of Love. And last time I was addressing chapter 1, this whole idea of resigning as our own teacher and accepting Jesus as our teacher. And like I said, my experience with this was so profound that I ended up 40 days immersed in I would say something similar to what sometimes you might hear people talk about near-death experience, how they passed out or they had some accident or some trauma, intense trauma, and they went unconscious and then they entered into heaven. Well, resigning as my own teacher did this for me without dying first, and this reunion with all there is happened not only while I was present there, but also happened for a very long period of time, and I suffered the consequences of that decision for 40 days. I got to say though, when I was about day 32, it was just easing off a little bit, and it was just so beautiful when it all kind of settled down. But I have to say the maybe a first week was quite an intense, more like getting used to, you know how these people who have these near-death experiences, they say, yeah, and then they suddenly I had to go back. I think I have a little bit more information on this going back business that's often not mentioned, and that is that so there you are, suddenly you're entering light, very gently but consistently. It's just constantly increases. It's almost like a day, you know, you never know when it gets lighter and when it gets darker. It's that slow, but it's constant. It's a constant change into something, and yet, you know, you're entering into the same place, but it's like a little bit more light. Every cell in the body is vibrating. For me personally, came down from my feet and just kept rising up. Within 3 days, I was somewhere in the middle of my body, but the intensity of it was, like I say, you know, the unbearable lightness of being. And I think it was at day 5 when I was virtually wanting to stop. And until we are emptied and forgiven everything that's held within us, this will be a very intense experience, because suddenly all these things that are held within us get activated. And suddenly we're firing off all sorts of karma, drama, tensions and holdings, and suddenly it all gets reverberated. And if you push against that, because it's mostly everything is really, at the end of the day, it's like, how does it make you feel, hey? So these feelings become very intense, and they'll also fire off at the same time. And if you're not accustomed meeting these feelings with love, this could be rather could actually create a shutdown. I think it was like I could really see how even when we die, and let's say we have this idea we're going to light, the light gets so intense that I don't know, 5 days later you might go, oh, I think I want another body again. Boom, you're coming out. So I think that for a moment it's amazing, it's so beautiful, really is, meeting God. Although there's one thing that's in your Rancho book that always strikes me as very enlightening, and that is there's this one line that says, when you think you're meeting God, you're actually just meeting these Menzonian worlds where we go after we die, because it's already such an incredible other way of being. Our bodies are not as dense, we don't get so sick, and there is a different way of being in there, and in there you can achieve this exquisite state. But again, they said when you think you have a God experience, that's just we meeting our the next level. I totally get that, because that's what that was like. I just wanted to get myself away from that place as much as I desired it above all else. It was the very same thing I could not handle. However, I was assisted and I was supported, and it was the birth of the heart. Not the heart we think we kind of have somewhere around our chest area. This was something brand new. Suddenly this love also, that was brand new. Very different to what I knew love to be. It's based on something, needing to love somebody or being loved by somebody. This was like a birth of the new. And each of us has this capacity to have this heart open, but we do actually need our brother Jesus, or at least the Christ consciousness, to assist us, to pop us from the mind, because you can't undo the mind with the mind. You need almost like a different quality to come from somewhere else, and that seems like somewhere else, and pop it. And then suddenly you wake up in a kingdom. And you go like in a blink of an eye, as they say. The kingdom is you, and it's being birthed, and it's exquisite, and it's incomparable to anything that you knew before. And a lot of ideas I had spiritually, with my spiritual understandings and concepts, it was all just not so. And so there we go. That's me starting. It's just the beginning, hey? So I'm going to continue with this, but I'm not going to now read everything he says step by step. I'm just going to jump into some paragraphs that for me personally have more meaning. And when you get your book, there will be different paragraphs that are important for your particular construct. So for now I'm just sharing my own experience and what really took me someplace. So here comes 1.12, chapter 1 in A Course of Love. It says, the heart cares not where love comes from, only that it comes. The heart cares not where love comes from, only that it comes. And he goes, This is useful to you in several ways. By this, I do not mean that there are not a particular objection of your affection. This is not love of which we speak. The heart yearns for what is like itself. Thus love yearns for love. To think of achieving love on one's own, again, is ludicrous. This is why love is your greatest teacher. To yearn for what is like yourself is to yearn for your Creator, and when perception is healed, to create like your Creator. This yearning exists naturally within you and cannot be diminished or satiated. It's like this lusting for God, desiring with all your heart and all your strength and all your might and all your might and all your will. It's like all of you, all the main parts of you are in this focused one thing above all else. Yeah. Now, entering in the kingdom, one thing that was shockingly obvious was the effortless way of being. See, the minute I stepped in and tried something, I suffered. The minute I stepped back and let the creation do its thing, it began to expand and birth, and the newness of a moment would be replaced by another newness of the moment. And the second newness was not comparable to the first one. Yeah, it's just like a brand new creation. You create something new and new, but it's not like you're making up stuff or building something or doing sculptures, or you're creating a state of being, of awareness, of it cannot be explained, it cannot be pinpointed, it cannot be named. It's this unspeakable way of being. Mm-hmm. Each of us has a being. When a being ignites, and this being is, let's just for a second play with it, it's much bigger than what you appear to seem to be. So we think we live in this body, right? But look at your body from behind. Imagine your body just went forward, or you step back, and suddenly you see yourself from behind. Yeah? It's quite achievable, isn't it? What about you look at yourself from the top, from above? And imagine that like you looking at yourself, sitting there or walking or driving, and you're looking at yourself from 10 meters above. Well, how about 100? Or how about one of the telescopes that kind of look at you from really far away, right? You could see yourself from the front, from the side. You can see yourself not only as you, but amongst many, right? So now what's this thing that's looking? Is not you imagining it, this is the actual happening. Same as with hearing. Like, now I'm saying words, they make vibration. The vibration hits your eardrum and translates it into the language we commonly use. And from that translation, based on your conditioning, you think you hear what I say. Well, how about you don't say a word and you just listen, and suddenly you hear the voice in your head, and it's not hitting your eardrum. Yeah? nothing like your ears are not registering, and yet you're hearing a voice. So that's a very similar exercise, yeah? And how about you somewhere which you might not know where it is? You're at the core of your being, yeah? And you're looking from that place at you, yeah? Striving and trying to know more and achieve more. But is that striving, yeah, is that a little bit in a way. The moment you fall into this effortless place where this creation is done for you. This is what Jesus does. He comes and he helps you to pause yourself for a moment. You go on a hold. Just go on hold for a moment with everything you think you know and who you think you are. And let me just show you who you truly are. And now you suddenly become aware of what you are. You don't even observe it. Just becoming something that's igniting in you. You don't step in to help it, but you do step back in some way and you allow it to express itself, yeah? We are an expression of God, but we have not expressed ourselves as God created us. So this course, it constantly gets you to look at everything differently. Very similar to A Course in Miracles. Actually, the whole foundation of A Course in Miracles is to shift the perception and see things differently than we are conditioned or accustomed to. So if you achieved any advancement in a course in miracles and your mind is trained, it will be a little bit easier to meet this heart. But still, this is entirely possible, completely based on this book. Even so, in my deeper understanding, this is a perfect continuation of A Course in Miracles. However, it's what we call a standalone, that you don't need Course in Miracles. And just the way the Course in Miracles was taught, there's often a point where a course can get misunderstood, because Jesus talks about, teach only love. He doesn't say teach Course in Miracles, although he does in some way. But the main message is teach only love. So he gives you this book. That book helps you to get in touch with the part of you that is still as God created you. Okay? And you dislodge these barriers by being aware of them. Barriers to love's presence. And when they're gone, like love is not something you can be taught. Love already exists in you, as you. Yeah? We just put a couple of barriers in front of it. And so now we are not in this full awareness of this love's presence. And we're looking for it. But the mere striving for it is exactly what makes it unachievable. And of course, achievable. And obviously achievable with this resignation of our own striving. You are complete only within God, where you endlessly abide. Striving to be that which you can never be is the hell you have created. I think it should be the hell you have made, but there's a big distinction in between in the courses. We often think we're creating things, but usually creation is that of God, where we simply do nothing, and the creation kicks in, and it shows us in another way to live and to be. Then it goes into think again, and by your attraction to struggle. It is your attraction to the game, a game you hope to win, another chance to show your stamina and your strength, your quick wits, and your cunning mind. So Jesus is very slowly and systematically making us aware of what's true, what's real, and what's not. Love is at the heart of all things. How you feel but reflects your desire to accept love or reject it and choose fear. Both cannot be chosen. All feelings, here he goes straight to the point again. All feelings you label joyous or compassionate are of love. All things you label painful and angry are of fear. This is all there is. This is the world you make. Love or fear is your reality by your choice. A choice for love creates love. What? A choice for love creates love. You can use that straight away into a situation, eh? You go, okay, in this situation, I've decided to be loveless, but I also could decide otherwise, I want to decide otherwise because I want to be happy. So in this moment, I'm going to choose love. Yeah, because that choice is what will bring the love about. You can't make love. Again, there's that word making, hey? We're talking about creates love. A choice for love creates love. So you say, okay, God, here I am. I choose. I'm making a choice for love. Now you step back and let that be shown to you. So it's all about stepping back and go into this effortless state where you not helping God to create love. You are shown what it's like. So you can understand by example and by this birth within to learn what is to be a child of God. Because that's our natural inheritance, to be exactly as God is. God creates. It's not like everything got created and now we live in it. It's like, oh, look at this mess God created. Now we have to live in this. It's not how it works. It's constantly brand new. Why can't you define God? Yeah? Why nobody can define God? Because now it's new. And now, brand new. So it's like recreate itself into an incomparable freshness. Yeah. So that it's often compared to a spring. You just get this fresh water. A choice for fear creates fear. So I read this again because this is real key. A choice for love creates love. A choice for fear creates fear. What choice do you think has been made to create the world you call your home? I mean, those are like mega question, right? What choice do you think has been made? He's not even telling you what did you make. What kind of dissociates it a little bit. What choice do you think has been made to create the world you call your home? This world was created by your choice, and a new world can be created by a new choice. But you must realize that this is all there is. Love or lack of love. Love is all that is real. A choice for love is a choice for heaven. A choice of fear is hell. Neither are a place. They are further reflections of means and end being the same. They are but a further reflection of your power. Ta-da! That's a powerhouse support that miraculously has been given to us, channeled or received by, again, similar to Helen Shackman, who was also talking. It's like, I did not hear a voice. She actually said it wasn't a voice. A lot of people hear this word voice for God, and then they're waiting for words. The voice for God has got nothing to do with words. Sometimes, yes, but the voice is something else. Voice is something you can't define. You can't put your finger on it. Yeah, because it's what? It's not definable. Yeah, same as God is not definable. Which brings us to chapter 2, and chapter 2 is what love is. We can't define it. Look at it. What love is cannot be taught. It cannot be learned, but it can be recognized. Can you pass love by and not know that it is there? Oh yes, you do it constantly by choosing. By what? By choosing to see illusion rather than the truth. You cannot be taught love, but you can be taught to see love where it already exists. The body's eyes are not the eyes with which love can be recognized. Christ's vision is. For only Christ's vision beholds the face of God. One could just take that whole paragraph and read it 10 times and just get the enormity of this message that is being offered. While you look for a God with a physical form, you will not recognize God. Everything real is of God. Nothing unreal exists. Each person passing from this life to the next learns no great secret. They simply realize love is all there is. Nothing unreal exists. Now, think for yourself. If you were going to die tomorrow, what would you today find meaningful? Only love. This is salvation's key. Because love has no physical form, you cannot believe that love could be what you are, what you strive to be, what you seek to return to. Thus you believe You are something other than love and separate from love. You label love a feeling and one of many, yet you have been told there are but two from which you choose, love or fear. So whatever's occurring, there's a question like, okay, what is this? Is this love or is this fear? And there is this danger of, oh, it's fear and I need to get rid of it, right? And I'd say don't. Like, feel the fear. Just allow yourself to feel that fear. Know that this is fear. Of course, this need not be. But be with it, because that needs transformation. I probably said this before, because it's one of those crucial lines in Course in Miracles. He says, every twinge of annoyance is nothing but a veil drawn across an intense fury. Now, every little trigger, because honestly, if you're forgiving your brothers, yeah, you know what, you could be doing that forever, because you're forgiving the effect. Brother does not trigger us, yeah? We trigger ourselves around the brother. Now we're trying to forgive him so he doesn't annoy us anymore. But the truth is, we have this annoyance in ourselves. So I'd say, next time somebody triggers you, you go, thank you, I am triggered. Thanks for coming to my life to show me that I actually hold this trigger within myself. This can be any kind of situation that you find yourself in, Yeah. Someone's not well. Where do you go with that? Yeah. You got to go into this. What does that bring up in me? Right? Sometimes these things that we have in ourselves draw to us all sorts of situations that help us to ignite that holding within ourselves. And so here's also the salvation. So imagine that each of these triggers is like a tip of the iceberg. It's just a tip of it, top of it, yeah? And so grab it. Hey? Don't just deny it. Say like, oh, this is not real. Only love is real. And yet something is choking you within. So feel it, yeah? Like he says, every twinge of annoyance is nothing but a veil, right? So you want to get this trigger to actually take you to what is it really? Because we're really never upset for the reason we think. We often are mostly triggered because of what feelings has been brought up in us. And those who know me, I hammer this subject of feeling home big time, because it's the key. And this course of love is packed with these understandings of feelings. Yeah, so you just get that. It's like, okay, take me there. And you get this trigger to reveal to you, what originated, what created a decision that you find yourself in this place in the first place. So it's very simple. Brother comes, or sister, or situation triggers something in you. That's something you connect to, because that's a disconnection. Yeah, you're trying to get rid of it. Yeah, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to feel like this. And it's still you. It's not someone else or someone else's trigger. It's your trigger. This needs to be owned. And now you stay present for it. And you let it take you where you need to be taken, where you made a decision against that. It takes a little practice. But the more you do it, the more it's going to show you that it's true. So I just read that sentence before. Yet you have been told there are but two from which to choose, love and fear. Because you have chosen fear so many times and labeled it so many things, you no longer recognize it as fear. The same is true of love. Love is the name you gave too much you fear. What? Love is the name you give too much you fear. You think that it is possible to choose it as a means to buy your safety and security. You thus have defined love as a reaction to fear. This is why you can understand love as fear's opposite. This is true enough. But because you have not properly recognized fear as nothing, you have not properly recognized love as everything. It is because of the attributes you have given fear that love has been given attributes. And yet, love is completely attributeless, as we're going to find out. Only separate things have attributes and qualities that seem to complement or oppose. Love has no attributes, which is why it cannot be taught. If love cannot be taught but only recognized, how is this recognition made possible? Through love's effects. For cause and effect are one. Creation is love's effect. SRU. So as you can see, we're in chapter 2, and he is taking us home big time here. From my experience of reading this book, I find that I read it, and suddenly I can't read anymore. I feel like I'm dropped into a place, almost like, oh, what's happening now? I have these little Zoom groups where we hang out and read, basically just read the book. And out of nowhere we just go, boom, somebody begins to laugh or just becomes extremely joyous, or we just fall into this profound silence. But it's pregnant. It's not like emptiness. It's pregnant, it's full, it's like, it's uniting. And particularly uniting with my brothers and sisters, we begin to experience our oneness, and that ignites our gladness. And we rejoice in this glad understanding that we can meet in something else than, spiritual concepts on what works and what doesn't. We just meet in union. And that is how we get actually taught what love is. Yeah. Just to make a little interlude, I'm going to play this beautiful piece of music. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this properly, but it sounds something like Eterna Saudade. I think the composer is Brazilian. His name is Dilermando Reis, and but I'm not really sure how to pronounce that. Anyway, here it is. what an absolutely exquisite composition by this gem of a Brazilian composer who apparently written something like 200 or 300 of these exquisite melodies. And so, yeah, talk about an expression of just feeling love and allowing to express as music. However, let me come back to this text. Love is not something you do. It is what you are. To continue to identify love incorrectly is to continue to be unable to identify your true self. When I say true self, it means it's a self with a capital S. I think I've thrown that through in true self. It gives a sense of what he means. To continue to identify love incorrectly is to continue to live in hell. And this is something I was saying, like I had so many ideas what love was, or what enlightenment was, or what salvation was, or what God was. Yeah, these are all things to be put on a hold. And you have a good friend that you may be traveling together, some kind of ally. This is a very good thing to do, to sit around and go, hey, what's God? And the other person says, God is, and blah, 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 right? And then you just say, thank you. And what else is God? And then you will hear so many stories, so many images of what God is. And none of that is so. Yeah, because it can't be defined, hey? But to go through that process and to actually see how much we assign to this love or to God, that's got nothing to do with the truth of it. Yeah? What is love? Like, love is blah blah, eh? So we just keep going until there is all these ideas that are held within as an image of what love is good to let go of and empty. And so to make a space for this new revelation. Like you say, if your cup is full, it can be replenished, and the wine might become sour in it. But if you empty it and you clean it and you wash it off all these old ideas, all these tombstones of spirituality, this is this and this is this and this is that, suddenly the cup is empty and the truth can reveal itself to you as it is now, brand new. And even when you get it, it's not about, now I know, let me store it. Because that's exactly what we did. We begin to grab onto these ideas and we begin to hoard it. Yeah? And we begin to hide it. And the more we stored it in ourselves, more dense we became physically. Like our body became a physical, pretty much from all these ideas of what everything is. So as we empty our mind of all that's been cluttering them, yeah, a lot of it could be spiritual ideas that are completely backwards. I jump to 2.9. The insanity of your thought process and the world you perceive must be known to you before you are willing to give it up. I was just saying that, yeah. You do know this, and yet you constantly forget. This forgetting is the work of your ego. Your true self does not want to forget, and cannot for even a tiniest fraction of a second. It is precisely the inability of your true self to forget that gives you hope of learning to recognize love. And with that recognition of ending the insanity, you now perceive. Yeah. Your real self is the Christ in you. How could it be anything but love, or see with eyes other than those of love? So as I say, we empty our mind, and that brings us more into this God's presence, yeah. And then we begin to feel these pristine virgin feelings. They are being born right now. They're not something we hold and held forever. They loosen up, they get released. All the tension, all the grabbing, all the hoarding or holding gets opened, and feeling self, the will of God, begins to flow again. Yeah, that's your ultimate Kundalini. That's that force that will begin to replenish your existence. And only when that is moving, we experience this birth of Christ in us. So eventually we realize that all these stories about Jesus, and it was basically just a story of awakening the Christ in you. It's your Christmas, no one else's. What good it is to you that, there is this guy who is awake, or that guy, and he said this and he said that. It just doesn't help. Only you can be accomplished, and you can be accomplished. So it's returning to this exquisite presence. This exquisite presence opens this reservoir of feelings that are brand new right now feelings, birthing the moment, birthing the Christ in you. And when that happens, like that, when you resign as your own teacher, this occurs, and suddenly you have this tiny little Jesus in your heart, yeah. And then comes still the ego. The ego is insidious, it's very intelligent, and it's intertwined in your existence. What is he going to do? He wants to kill this child, yeah. With the birth of Christ, this ego, this controller, cannot sustain its life. And so as you train your mind not to let this Herod to kill the child, yeah, you take it into the safe place, and you protect it, and you water it, and you with it, and you hold it, right? We often address this inner child. Yeah? My inner child wants this and this and that. No. Your inner child wants your parents back. They want the father who is this godly presence in your heart. Yeah. Wants the mother who will emotionally embrace it and hold it in loving acceptance. Right? So this inner child just wants our parents back. You can talk to it until cows come home. It's parentless. It will want more and want more and want more, and it'll be unstoppable, just like that bird that's outside that goes beep, 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 right? Give me more food, give me more food, give me more food, hey? Endlessly needing, yeah. But how did the need occur? Yeah, we had to deny something. God gave us everything. We basically, in God, we need nothing. If we deny that, we start to need things. And now we're just basically consumers, constantly need something. And that's not who we truly are. So this is so exquisite. The real Your real self is the Christ in you. How could it be anything but love or sees with the eyes other than those of love? Would you expect any decent human being to look on loveless world, on misery and despair, and not to be moved? Think not that those who seem to add to the world's misery are any exception. There is not a soul that would walk this earth who does not weep at what it sees. Now check this one out, and this is how I'm going to bring this to a close with this paragraph. Yet the Christ in you does not weep, for the Christ in you sees with the eyes of love. The difference is that the eyes of love see not the misery or despair. They're not there. This is the miracle. The miracle is true seeing. Think not that love can look on misery and see love there. Love looks not on misery at all. Yeah? Misery is a result of the ego. When we return to love, that which ego has made does not exist. And you go like, yeah, well, what about this and what about that? Well, that questioner is the ego. It's very personal. It acts as God. We so believe it. We're so caught up in that. So this is an awakening to the fact that in Christ in us does not look on misery and see love there. Love looks not on misery at all. So, yeah, this is exquisite material, and I thank you deeply for taking time to connect, to listen, return to love, return to our self, true self. It's definitely is a big need, deep desire to return to love. So again, I thank you for your attention, and we'll catch you guys next week.